What's up, everybody? Time for some Twin Peaks. Um, yeah, got off a couple stellar episodes leading into the season. This one gives us some reveals and some new information, but I should say it's not as action packed and packed with great stuff to the same degree as the previous two. Still solid. So let's get started. Alright, so we start off at the hospital, and we saw that montage at the tail end of episode 2, and we saw part of that was Ronette, Pulaski, in her hospital bed, and apparently that image reflected something that actually took place, and wasn't merely just a collection of images, in Dale's subconscious. So something was happening simultaneously while he was having that dream over at the hospital. And we see that she has to be restrained and sedated by members of the hospital staff, which is understandable, given she just woke up from a coma that was induced by a extremely tragic event. Why there was blue dye put in the IV, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if it could have poisoned her somehow. I'm not sure. I mean, she pulled her IV out, so I don't know if that was an attempt to try to off her so that she couldn't say anything. Not sure. Dale manages to find the letter B underneath one of her fingernails. And as we've seen, this is kind of becoming sort of a signature left by the murderer responsible for killing Teresa Banks and Laura Palmer. And Dale says that these letters are in how they were found, and all the specifics about them were never made public. That information was confidential. So that kind of eliminates the chance of there being like a copycat killer or something out there. So we kind of remove that from the equation. Dale relays his dream that he had with the giant to Harry and Albert, and of course Albert makes some wisecracks. Donna, in the next scene, finally meets Mr. Harold Smith, the agoraphobic neighbor of Mrs. Tremont. An unusual guy, but he's seemingly harmless. Harold says that Laura wanted him to get in touch with Donna if anything happened to her. That's a funny line. Do you have a judgment you'd like to express? It's kind of funny. That was kind of weird. Not really gonna, help to ease the tension when you are acting goofy like that. So Harold raises orchids. Goes to get one for Laura's grave that he grew specially for that purpose. Donna goes and decides she's going to do a little snooping about, but is interrupted before she can find anything. She finds like a little piece of paper or something kind of sticking out of a drawer or a bookshelf or something like that. So yeah, we don't learn too much from this encounter, but it's a multi-part storyline for those two. So yeah, we'll be getting some good info in future episodes from them. So the letters we have so far have been found underneath the fingernails of the victims. At least, Ronette is still alive, so at least two of the deceased and one of them could have been a potential victim. Are R, B, and T. So that's what we've got to go on right now. So apparently the 4 people that have seen Bob, at least in visions, are Maddie, Sarah Palmer, Dale, and Ronette Pulaski. I don't recall Maddie conveying that she'd seen, him in any vision or anything, that on screen. So it's either some kind of continuity error, or we're supposed to assume, or that it's implied that that information found its way to Dale, because I don't recall. Dale has never as far as I can tell, ever even spoken to Maddie Ferguson, at all, ever in any scene. Yeah, and apparently Dale's, shooter is a fan of James Bond. Walther PPK was the type of gun that was used to shoot him. Yeah, and then Albert makes a kind of a sarcastic comment at Sheriff Truman, and Truman threatens him to, clock him again. They kind of have a weird exchange where Albert reveals that he's a pacifist, and they hug Sheriff Truman, and ever saying, I love you, Sheriff Truman, in a platonic way. Yeah, so Harry kind of feels like kind of a jerk after that. Yeah, Albert's a bit strange, and that's kind of the turning point for Albert in some regard to his character. So yeah, we've got Lucy occupied with the task of trying to find words that include the letters RBT, and then enter Dick Tremaine. He's basically a comic relief character, and a rival of Andy's for as far as Lucy's affection goes. So Andy and Dick have good on-screen chemistry. So yeah, though they do kind of fall, victim to the bizarre need to create, more content and devote more time to side characters as we go on further and later in season 2, so that they kind of are not necessarily an asset to the show, because they're overused, which is unfortunate. But like I said, we don't really need to discuss that at this current time. All right, so let's see here. So Leland shows up at the sheriff's office, or sheriff's department, and for an important scene. Brings a sketch of Bob with him, and tells Dale, Harry, that he knows him. Tells him about his grandfather's house on Pearl Lakes, like he mentioned in the scene with Ben and Jerry. So he says that the people that lived on, I can't remember off the top of my head the name of the people that lived to this particular side of the house, but the other side of the house he thinks belonged to somebody by the name of Robertson. And RB and T are 3 letters that fit into the word Robert. So Dale thinks that that's the connection that the letters are pointing towards. Before they leave, Leland says that the guy that used to live in the house, or used to flick matches at him and say or ask, you want to play with fire, little boy? And if you recall, Laura mentioned something like that to James, and that James actually relayed to Dale, that when he says, you want to play with fire, little boy, you want to play with Bob. So yeah, that's a familiar saying that is being reiterated. And so we've got some comedic relief at the diner with Dick and Lucy. And for those of you that are tourists, the Space Needle isn't all that. It's kind of cool because it's got a view, way up. I haven't been there in so long. I can't even remember from memory what it looks like on the inside. Supposedly there's probably a decent restaurant there. The only thing that I ever found interesting about the Space Needles was when at least the last time I was there, you'd get these guys that were, doing the window washing, and they basically are just sitting out on this, seat, kind of like it's like a board with, rope, used attached to some kind of thing that's hanging off the top, and they're just kind of sitting there, almost like, those old images of, people, cleaning the windows of skyscrapers, but they're just sitting there with nothing beneath them except for a long fall way, 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 way down. And they're sitting there doing the window washing, and I just that scared the crap out of me. But anyway, so yeah, it's a bit overhyped. And then Dick finds out about Lucy being pregnant, and he's about as enthusiastic as Andy was when he heard the news as well, so not very enthusiastic. James and Maddie talk a little bit. They seem to be kind of getting a bit closer to each other, though maybe it's just a friendship, maybe it's in a romantic way. It's kind of hard to tell. But Donna doesn't seem to think that it's anything but a romantic, connection, and so she shows a bit of sarcasm and venom towards James, so because of what she sees. And over at One Eye Jack's, in the next scene, Audrey is bound to a chair and she's being shot up with heroin against her will. So yeah, Blackie obviously doesn't mess around, and she's going to basically use her. Blackie's going to use Audrey as a bargaining chip to get a big payday off of Ben Horn to get her back. Emery's a moron as usual. And like I probably mentioned in I think that was the last episode. It was Ben I thought it was either Ben or Jerry, but apparently it's Ben Horn that is the one that got Blackie hooked on heroin. So that was probably done by design. We're back at the sheriff's office, and the one-armed man, Mr. Gerard, is showing Harry his wares, and then happens to see a sketch of Bob lying on the table, gets a bit disoriented, feels a bit faint, and then says he needs to take this medication he has, so he leaves to do so. And then Shelley's there at the sheriff's station. She's basically playing along with Bobby's whole plan for they won't try to get the insurance money. Says she's not going to testify against Leo because he's her husband. Blah blah blah. Not very good at acting out the scene and being convincing, because Dale smells the scam that's going on right away and dismisses her, sends her on her way. Says, same, Leo will be back and hopefully he'll become back to his, senses and be, the same old wonderful Leo that she knows and loves. So, yeah, I'm sure she would not be looking forward to that if that were the case. All right, so we have the scene, or go to the bathroom in the police station, and Mr. Gerard's, he's kind of in a fit of sorts, like an epileptic fit or something along those lines, when trying to inject this syringe with his medication, and seems to pass out or momentary lapse of consciousness. And then when he comes to and opens up the door to the stall, seems to, kind of morph, at least personality-wise, into someone completely different. And he's talking and acting a lot more like how Dale saw him in his initial dream when he first appeared, on the show. Is he a different person? So what exactly happened to him? Is it a multiple personality type thing? We'll have to wait and find out. Well, there's the Asian guy with the ponytail again. Keep an eye on Dale for whatever reason. Ben Horn and Dale have a talk about Audrey's disappearance. Ben acts like a douche, as usual, assuming that Dale wants to bed Audrey. And then after Dale finishes the conversation, heads down the hall or out of the room or whatever, the Asian guy decides to follow behind him. But nothing, no other interaction between them happens during the episode, so it's kind of not really that important at this point in time. Audrey is lying asleep in her little side room there at One Eye Jack's when then two strangers enter, go to her bedside. And I'll give you fair warning, I can't stand Jean Reno. I can't stand that character. I hate that character. His excuse for a French accent, his stupid attire, his attempt to try to be this Mr. Cool badass guy. I can't stand him. And Blackie's sister, I can't really stand either. they're both pretty darn annoying. Yeah, so apparently, we're back with the sheriff's department, and Pete relayed the message to Harry that Josie's going to be back in town soon, so maybe we'll get some answers from her about some stuff. But of course, Harry is still wrapped around her finger, unfortunately. So he's, I don't know. Hopefully, that won't have long-lasting repercussions for Harry if he doesn't wise up to what Josie's all about. And then Hawk comes in to give us some news about Leland's grandfather's vacation place. Apparently one of the lots there is vacant now, and the other one has a boarded up house. We don't know who that house belongs to yet, so we're going to have to wait until the information gets back to the sheriff's department. Dale, I don't know if, let's see here. Trying to remember who exactly it was that, oh, that's right. Harry asks Hawk if he's seen Mr. Gerard, and then Dale says, the one-armed man is here? And then reminds Harry that in his dream, the one-armed man knew Bob, so they go looking for him, and lo and behold, without chemicals, he points, which means, without his medicine, he's leading the way to finding Bob. So all the Giant's clues are true. So good stuff. Ed and Nadine are at the hospital. Dr. Hayward says, Ed should sing her a song or something. So he starts singing to Nadine, and then she wakes up doing kind of like a cheerleading chant, clapping and whatnot. So yeah, apparently ODing her on those pills made her mind shift into a state where she thinks she's now a senior in high school. And this is another example, like I said, with Dick Tremaine and Andy Brennan, is that this whole kind of gimmick or shtick with her, being like kind of having this weird amnesia type thing, it doesn't really contribute in the long run to the quality of the story, so it becomes another distraction. But some people probably like the kind of humor that goes along with it. So I'm not saying it's a absolute waste of time, but it just seems to take away too much screen time from what could have been used for some better content, and I'll leave it at that. We're now at the hospital, and apparently Dr. Jacoby's Hawaiian wife has come by and spruced up the room a bit. So they're going to hypnose Dr. Jacoby and then see if he can recall what happened and what he witnessed the night that Leland killed Jacques Renault with so a little bit of humor, before we get to the serious part with them. So Dr. Jacoby basically mentions hearing the tape, that ripping, because Leland was ripping pieces of tape to bind Jacques' arm or hand to the railing of or the rail of his hospital bed, and then that sounded like dog barking, or dog barking when Jacques was getting smothered with the pillow. And then Dr. Jacoby, says that he, recognizes or remembers that he knows that the guy that did it just by kind of reimagining his image. So we'll have to see who that is. We go to Donna over to the graveyard, and lo and behold, what's there taking a gander at what she's up to is an owl. And remember, the owls are not what they seem. So maybe this is something other than an owl, or it's a regular owl, and that notion doesn't apply to it. So yeah, Donna's visiting Laura's grave and kind of conversing with her, kind of thinking out loud. And she confesses that, she wanted to be like Laura, but she's afraid that Laura's death and all that's going on will rip her apart from James and Maddie, because of, how crazy and stressful the situation is. Donna resents the fact that so much time was spent trying to deal with Laura's problems while she was alive. And, even now when she's dead, Laura's problems are still at the forefront, and they're all still trying to figure things out instead of dealing with the complications and the issues that are going on in their own lives. Donna specifically with her being, upset and confused about what's going on between James and Maddie. So it's an interesting scene. It's good to see, Donna getting some of this, stuff about, motion and, kind of thoughts out in the open. So it adds a little bit more to her character. Because she was, one of her, Laura's closest friends and was around Laura during good times and bad. So, obviously it's good for the character development to get a more solidified idea on how Laura's, existence affected Donna. So, yeah, now we're over at, I guess it's the Palmers. James visits Maddie. Apparently James's mom, who we mentioned at Donna, was a kind of an alcoholic that just traveled around and picked up strange guys at bars, and so not the nicest person to have for a mother. James and Maddie they share a kind of a tender moment that's kind of a breaking of the tension, or the romantic kind of, tension between the two of them. And then, of course, Donna shows up inconveniently, sees them, and then storms out. There's that red traffic light again. Maddie's then, upset and confused as well. Starts talking to Leland about, after having shown up in Twin Peaks, it's like everyone treats her as if she's like some reincarnation of Laura, or that, she's taking the place of Laura, as if Laura, never left or something. And, she's basically saying, I'm nothing like her, nothing, remotely like her. Leland, is comforting her, trying to, make her feel better. And then Dale and Harry just, show up because of in the living room because the door was open. Harry lets Leland know that he's under arrest for the murder of Jacques Renault. So apparently Dr. Jacoby was able to identify via hypnosis Leland Palmer's face or whatnot, and they were able to put two and two together. And then kind of as the counterpart to the whole Maddie thing, Donna goes, then the other female in that triangle goes to visit Harold Smith because she's distraught and upset about it all, seeing James and Maddie together, maybe saw them kiss, and wants a sympathetic ear. So Harold leaves briefly after talking to her a little bit to get her something to drink. Donna looks around and then stumbles upon something. And what is that something? Well, it looks like a diary of Laura's. But let's think back. Didn't Deputy Hawk take Laura's diary from her room in order to keep it as evidence until it was no longer needed. So yeah, this must mean that she kept more than one diary. So what exactly did she write in this other diary that she confided in, or gave? I'm assuming she gave to Harold Smith, unless he's got it from her through some other means. So what kind of secrets are hidden inside that diary? So let's see. That's it for the episode. The title of the episode, the official title is The Man Behind Glass. So that's it for this one. It's a pretty good episode. I'll get this one all set up and probably uploaded tonight, and then I'll be back tomorrow, get another episode up for episode 4. So until then, Twin Peaks fans from all different areas around the country, around the world. I'll talk to you later. Take it easy.